I've got a helper.
Yeah.
Today's the day my Kimbo Camper is finally going back on the Tacoma, and I'm going to show you guys this entire process. It actually started a little while ago by kind of emptying out my truck. So I have a whole pile of camp gear over here. I took some things off of my swing out. I of course needed to empty out the bed, but I also needed to remove all of this stuff from my swing out because I have to have the tailgate down and the swing out open to fit underneath the camper. If I have my spare tire, max tracks, and roto packs and stuff on there, it's just not going to fit. So I did that stuff the other week. I actually decided to reinstall my max tracks on my swing out here. I don't think they will get in the way. I should be able to kind of finesse it into place. And now I'm going to get the truck all the way down to its kind of like stock configuration. So if you just have a regular Tacoma and you want to put a camper in the back of it, I'm going to get my truck down to that point. My summer setup is kind of elaborate with my Diamondback cover, all of this gear that's sitting in my garage now just kind of taking up space, and all of the other accessories on here. The truck is basically ready to go. All I need to do is remove my Diamondback, remove the bar up at the bulkhead, and then I'll give this thing a nice wash before I actually put the camper in the bed. Alright, now my truck is looking like a stock Tacoma. I've got no Diamondback, nothing back there, took the bulkhead off, and this will be the first time that I'm putting the Kimbo on the truck since my recent modifications. The truck is taller and wider, so because of that, the other week I went over to the storage unit where I keep my Kimbo, and I actually installed some leg extensions, so this is how that went. Alright guys, I'm doing a little test fit with these new brackets here. It's going to bring the legs out, drop them down, which is what I'm going for because the truck is wide and tall. I started the process by first moving my little front jack here. You can buy that at any hardware store, Home Depot, places like that. And I just gave a little bit of extra support towards the bed side of the camper. That allowed me to lift this leg off the ground just a little bit, and I pulled the entire leg off, and now we're getting the fitment correct here. I lowered the jack down so the holes line up, and this is basically what it's going to look like when it's all together. So I take one of the front plates here. This is towards the front of the camper, the bed side. There are two different brackets, and for this one I'm going to be using the brackets with the smaller holes in the middle because this is basically going to sandwich the jack leg in between these two new brackets. Once I pulled the leg out, I was able to slide this bracket in. I got a bolt started there just to kind of make sure everything lines up, and now I'm basically going to line this up. Now the brackets to the camper loosely installed. I'm going to loosely install the leg again. Now I'm just going to make all the bolts nice and snug, and then I can lower the jack to the ground, putting the weight back onto the jack. Now I've got the back side by the door installed. This one is a little bit different. Instead of sandwiching one of the plates in between these two back plates here, you sandwich the plate on the camper between these two, jack in between there, and now the camper sits even more stable than before. So if you're like me, you have a wide lifted truck, chances are these are going to be on from the factory. However, if you're like me and you have a wide lifted truck and you run the camper with the legs off, I would recommend actually getting these from the factory because now the way the camper sits, it hardly wiggles at all. It gives it a wider stance, more stability, and these are going to come off once the camper is on the truck anyway, so pretty quick and easy install. I've got a helper.
Yeah.
Keys, please. Alright, so here's the Kimbo as it sits with the new leg brackets installed. It sits a lot more stable, which is nice. So like I mentioned, if you have the option to get them and you take the legs off when you use it, I would say do it. I have not opened the Kimbo in a while now. Yay, Kimbo. Everything is nice and empty in here. Let's get this thing loaded. Alright, so the tool that I'm using for this, because it does not have automatic jacks on here, which some people do, but you have these little like kind of proprietary bits. I've got some on a drill, so I'll be able to jack this side up. Ashley has the manual version, just a little hand crank. Put that on there. We're going to crank it up one side at a time until it will obviously clear the bed of the truck. You want to do this in about 6-inch increments. I like to keep the front raised up a little bit more because the tipping point is like over this way. So let's see how this goes. Camper is sitting tall now. I think we'll have enough room to get it in the back of the truck. I have my platform right here, which you wouldn't need for a regular Tacoma, but because I'm running a roof rack, that gives me just enough clearance. That way the front of the camper doesn't bump into the rack. So we're gonna throw that in, and then I will slowly back into place. Ashley's gonna have to kind of move the swing out a little bit. That way it doesn't come into contact with these arms. She's gonna kind of keep the straps out of the way, and should just slowly back in until it bumps up against the back. So we've got plenty of room here, and it's kind of centered right now, but it will shift as we lower it side by side. So we're gonna slowly lower it, try to get it as centered as possible, and then we'll hook up the straps. Alright, now it's time to get some power into the camper. I went ahead and took the legs off. The only thing I really have to do on the outside now is add a little bit more air to my airbags. That way the truck kind of sits a little bit level. Now I'm going to take a power cord here and actually plug it into this plug underneath the whole battery system. There is a shore outlet plug on the outside of the camper, so now when I plug into shore power, not only is the battery system going to be powered, but this right here will be powered. There's a little foam block that kind of goes into place here, and then I'm going to take this cord and run it through a little notch over here where the AC used to be, because this is now where I'm going to be putting another battery system. Now I'm going to hook up the main battery system, that way I can get some lights on in here and a fan. If you haven't seen this power system before, essentially it's two batteries linked together. They're EcoFlows. I haven't had an issue with them, and since I take pretty good care of the batteries, hopefully everything will be okay. I first need the link cable. That is for the second battery, which goes in first. Now the main battery unit, need to plug in the shore power, the solar panels on top, and then this port on the outside here is for that link cable. We're already generating solar, so that's a good sign. Now with the link cable installed, it looks like that secondary battery is powered up. Now I'll run a bungee across the top and just secure it in place right like that. Now for the rest of the power systems, we have the fridge, we have the bus bar, and the lights. This is gonna make a pretty loud noise. It's the carbon detector down there, so I know that's working. Now, moment of truth, lights. All right. Now this extra battery here, I'm just gonna plug it in and slide it into place, and then if I plug the camper in with the shore power on the outside, this thing will charge. It's snug, but pretty much the perfect fit right there. Next up, water. I just filled this with my kitchen sink. I kind of did this mod last winter, I believe, but I installed a new faucet. So I have a Dometic faucet there. I kept the rigid pipe, which will keep the pickup at the bottom of this little tank. So I run a silicone hose through there, drop that water into place, and I would be very surprised if this is charged, but let's see. We have water. Power's done, water's done. Now I just need to clean this thing out a little bit and load it with some gear, make the bed, and we should be ready for our first night out in the Kimbo. All right, the camper is on the truck and we are ready to go out and explore. I'm gonna give you guys a quick little walkthrough of the inside in case you've never seen this thing before. And before we get into that, I actually want to talk about some of the truck modifications. If you've watched my videos for a while, you know all of the modifications that I've done to the truck, so this is going to be a lot of repeating myself, but I am always asked questions about what is needed on a truck if you're going to carry a camper like this, and honestly, it's not that extensive. So this camper was specifically built for a 6-foot bed Tacoma, the axis cab like this right here, which is why I bought this truck in the first place. There are some people who put them in a short bed Tacoma with the 5.5-foot bed, but you have to leave the tailgate down. I think the fitment looks kind of funny, so I would probably never do that, but you can actually do that as well. You can put them on Tundras, F-150s, basically anything with a 6-foot bed. You will be able to carry a camper like this. However, you may need to run some sort of support underneath, like the box that I put underneath mine to clear the roof rack. Now with that being said, what do you need for payload capacity and suspension and things like that? The payload capacity always comes up in conversation when talking about carrying a camper in the back of a truck, and I will say that an axis cab has more of a payload capacity than a 4-door short bed Tacoma. A single cab Tacoma has even more because obviously the truck is going to be lighter from the factory. I'm going to save that entire discussion for probably a future video, but you want to be able to make sure that the truck and the modifications that you're adding to the truck make it capable enough to haul a camper like this around, and you want to do it efficiently as well. Right now I believe the camper weighs about 950 pounds with the legs removed and some minimal things on the inside. You can get just the shell of one of these campers and it's going to be a lot lighter if you build it out yourself with your own modifications. So there's a lot of situational stuff when it comes to talking about topics like this, but I'm just going to go over some of the things that I actually have done to my truck. Let's say you have a stock axis cab Tacoma and you want to put a camper like the Kimbo in the back of it. One of the first things that I would recommend are a good load rated tire. Stock tires can probably get away with it, but you probably want something with a thicker ply. I, of course, am not going to run into an issue because I'm running some really beefy Toyo mud terrains on here, but tires is definitely a good starting place. One of the next things you want to look at is suspension. If you're throwing a camper like the Kimbo on the back of an axis cab Tacoma, you probably at least bare minimum want airbags. I'm running Firestone Ride Right airbags with Daystar cradles. They go up to a max of 100 PSI. Right now I'm running them at about 40 to 50 PSI, and it really just levels out the truck. It lifts the rear of the truck, it gets rid of a lot of that squat, and it makes carrying the camper a lot easier for the truck. When it comes to the actual suspension components, I'm actually running some Deaver Stage 2 Expedition leaf packs. I believe they're rated for 650 pounds each. And then for my suspension in the rear, this is kind of overkill for what I use the truck for in the summertime, but I'm running Fox Smoothies. They're 2.5 DSC. It's essentially like long travel suspension. I have DRT relocates. I did a whole video about the suspension setup on this truck, and that stuff is really not completely necessary, but I would say at minimum, definitely have airbags, and also it would be nice to increase your leaf springs in the rear too. I also have my truck re-geared with 529 nitro gears, which makes pushing around 35-inch tires and having a load in the back like the camper, it makes the truck move a lot easier. So honestly, I don't really notice the weight of the Kimbo in the back unless I'm going around turns because I, of course, don't have a sway bar up front. So like I said, very situational. There's a ton of different setups that you could run, but if you're going to do anything, I would say good tires, airbags, and possibly leaf springs as well. Now let's take a look at the inside quick. Now, a lot of people either love the outside of the Kimbo or they hate it, but it's kind of hard to hate the interior of a camper like this. Whenever the camper is not on my truck, people always ask me, they're like, hey, did you sell it? No, I'm not selling the Kimbo. I love this thing, and the reason I do is because it's like a little cabin in the back of my truck that I can bring everywhere I go. You got the bamboo floor entryway here to kick off any mud or dirt. If you get snow in there, it'll get wet and it'll keep the rest of your camper clean. Right here we have a little closet. And on the outside of that, this is where I have some storage, which I basically use as my pantry. So I have some food and spices, supplies, paper towels, cutting board, things like that. And the Kimbo isn't completely loaded up right now, but it will get there after the first couple of trips. I've added some nets like this, which you can probably see in an older video. I think about this time last year on the channel I posted about those. Power system, storage solution right here. I actually changed this stuff up. I put bungee cords across here. Kind of a cool aesthetic, and it makes grabbing your gear very easy. I also did that across this side as well. I originally picked up my camper with an AC unit, and I of course don't really need that living in Colorado, so here I have an extra power source. You guys just saw me install that. You have the bed, you have a little bit of separation here, humidity, temperature gauge, more nets, more baskets, fan, super comfortable mattress. We have a shower basin right here, which is basically where I keep all of my luggage and gear and clothing and stuff, just to kind of keep things clean in here. And then over to the kitchen galley area, I have my bag with all of my cooking essentials, cleaning essentials, cutlery, bowls, dishes, plates. Fridge, currently empty right now, but it does have a tiny little freezer up there. Plenty of room for a couple days out on the road. We have the water jug here, which is super simple. I keep my gas 1 butane stove over here. I actually modified this and installed my own Dometic faucet. So you just double tap that, you get water. Oh, and that has finally died after like a year of use. So here's the cool thing with this. I just disconnect the water hose, and now I can plug this thing in right here with a little USB. The charge on this thing is insane. So once I get that charged, just magnets back into place, and then I reconnect the hose. And then of course, the Dickinson propane fireplace. You got a live flame in there. I did a video about this a little while ago, and it still gets a lot of comments and questions to this day, so I think I'm going to bring you guys an updated video on that in the future. And I believe that's it. I know a lot of you guys have seen this camper time and time again, but you're about to see it a lot more because it's Kimbo season. I'm stoked. I can't wait to get out there and camp in this thing. If there's anything specific that you guys want to know about or see with a camper like this, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to incorporate some of your ideas in some future videos. If you have any more questions, let me know, and if you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.